Hello there. Today we're taking a look at a what if I'd initially dismissed as an idea that couldn't really go anywhere. And that idea is, what if Goten and Bulla, or Bra depending on your preference, were born first? So Goten is born 4 years before the beginning of Z, and Bulla is born in the 3 years training for the androids. So obviously Bulla isn't a factor yet. Of course, Goten is quite different to his older or younger brother in a few ways. For one, he's a much more carefree and mischievous child when compared to the more shy and reserved Gohan. A big difference between the two is that Goten enjoys fighting. He's a lot more similar to Goku than Gohan ever was, and it goes beyond his appearance. Although Goten views fighting as more of a hobby than a lifestyle. Goten is actually a lot like Goku was as a child. He just has more common sense and is typically more polite than Goku was. Though Gohan does have advantages over his younger brother. One, he's smarter. Goten isn't dumb, but he's not as clever as Gohan. And of course, the glaring difference is Gohan's rage boosts. Goten definitely has a lot of potential, being the youngest Super Saiyan ever at age 7, but he lacks the explosive anger that helped Gohan score hits on people like Frieza. Bulla and Trunks are also quite different. It's kind of the reverse actually. Though Bulla is said to be quite strong, she is decidedly not a fighter. In GT, she's more or less your stereotypical rich girl and acts like a normal teen, despite the fact that she is 12, still 1 year off being a teenager. Of course, Vegeta had mellowed out considerably by then, so he never pressured her to become a fighter, but in this timeline she's born before all that, so how would that affect her? And how about the future timeline? Would future Bulla join the fight against the androids out of necessity? Of course, this means Gohan's role is reduced significantly, and Trunks is barely a factor. He'd just be a baby. Babies don't have much personality. Well, they do, but you can't explore the character of a baby. Admittedly, when I'd initially dismissed this what if, my thought process was, well, without Gohan's hidden potential, they die at Cell. But I have since reconsidered this, and the more I thought about this what if, the more it intrigued me. And I think I can take it somewhere interesting. Now, of course, there is a problem of Cell, and we'll get there, but before that, there's the issue of Raditz. Remember, Raditz was weakened by Gohan attacking him. That gave Goku and Piccolo the edge. So without it, can they win? We can make it work. But first, some background information. 4 years before the beginning of Dragon Ball Z, Goku and Chi-Chi have their first child, who Chi-Chi names Goten. Goku wanted to name him Gohan, but Chi-Chi had won rock, paper, scissors, promising he could name their next child Gohan if they had one. Goten was born without a tail, of course, since apparently it's a recessive trait and he never had one. Despite Chi-Chi's best efforts to make him study, the young Goten's attention could never be pulled away from Goku's training sessions. She attempted to dissuade him, but he just looked so sad when she wouldn't let him watch his dad train, so she relented. By the time Goten could walk, he was attempting to join in with Goku's workouts. "Goten, you're much too young to learn how to fight." Come on, Chi-Chi, it'll be fine. Grandpa Gohan taught me as soon as I could walk," though Goku had pretty much bugged him till he did. Eventually, Chi-Chi relented and allowed this, with the condition that Goten would study as well, and so Goku and Goten would train together pretty often. Goten showed an enthusiasm for fighting that reminded Goku a lot of himself when he was his age. This all happened when Goten was about 3, and after a year of training with his dad, Goten had reached a power level of 200, even stronger than Roshi, and Goku, for one, was amazed by his progress. I tell you, Goten is chock full of potential. He's almost stronger than King Piccolo. I wasn't close to that at his age. "That's all well and good, but he needs an education as well," Chi-Chi insisted as she served dinner. "Well, I can do both, like a superhero. I can be a smart guy by day and a martial artist at night." "Then, when do you sleep?" Goku would ask, seemingly puzzled. Goten simply shrugged in response to that, earning a small chuckle from his parents. Soon the day would arrive when Goku would take Goten to meet Bulma, Roshi, and Krillin. All three of them seemed surprised to see that Goku had a son, and Krillin's pride was a little wounded that this kid was almost stronger than him. Roshi could tell Krillin seemed a little disheartened, but that was what he would get if he slacked on his training. "There's certainly a strong family resemblance. Why, he's practically a miniature version of you." Piccolo had been keeping tabs on everything and everyone. He knew about Goku's kid already, and that this kid was some sort of prodigy. A child that young with a power that high could be a serious problem if he actually wanted to take over this world. He still has his encounter with Raditz as he's looking for his brother, but Raditz doesn't stay to talk long, as his scouter tells him about another power level. He travels to Kame House and things are initially the same. He explains about the Saiyans and what he's here for before spotting Goten. "Your son? He has our father's hair. He might be of some use. He's fairly powerful for a brat." A power level of 200 for a child wasn't bad even by Saiyan standards. Goku had made it clear he wouldn't come, so he would grab Goten, who proceeded to bite him. Raditz would knock Goten out with a blow to the stomach before giving Goku his ultimatum and flying away. He'd lock Goten in his pod when he started to cry before turning his attention to the 3 power levels approaching him. Goku and Piccolo teamed up as usual, but not to be outdone by a toddler, Krillin had volunteered as well. Goku gave a ride on the Nimbus, although Krillin held on to Goku just in case. He hadn't been able to ride it when he was a kid, and he wasn't sure if he could now, so he figured better safe than sorry. Piccolo would allow this, since he held a begrudging respect for Krillin since their match at the 23rd tournament. The 3 fighters rushed Raditz at once, but honestly, while Krillin helped a little, Raditz still easily dominated the 3 of them. He'd throw Krillin to the ground before throwing Goku and then Piccolo on top of him. "Even the 3 of you don't have a chance against me!" Piccolo briefly discussed his plan with Goku and then Krillin, who went along with it since it was more or less all they had. Roshi's 2 top students would rush Raditz while Goku kept his attention. Krillin would try to grab his tail while Piccolo charged the special beam cannon. "As I thought, just like with Goku, your tail is your weak spot." Raditz would attempt to struggle and pull himself free, but Krillin held on tight. Actually, too tight, as he ripped the Saiyan's tail clean off. Which seems easy to do since Grandpa Gohan also did it by accident back in Baba's tournament. Raditz howled in pain before rounding on Krillin and kicking him almost hard enough to break his neck. Piccolo's attack was almost ready, but he had no opportunity to use it since Raditz was now on the move. The Saiyan flew towards Krillin, preparing to kill him, but Krillin fought fast and used the solar flare, blinding Raditz and allowing Goku to get him in a full Nelson. Piccolo takes the shot, and the rest is history. Goku dies, and he accidentally lets slip the little tidbit about the Dragon Balls, meaning in 1 year, Vegeta and Nappa will arrive on Earth. So, it's off to King Kai's planet for Goku. But does Piccolo kidnap Goten? Sure, he knows the kid is strong, but he didn't show off a rage boost like Gohan did. He decided the kid wasn't worth his time and would instead train by himself. Goten didn't show it, but he was pretty shaken up by what happened. His father had been killed, and he wasn't strong enough to help, and what's more, there were more Saiyans coming. It was a lot of responsibility for a child so young to take on, but he decided that he needed more power to protect those he loves. Piccolo wasn't training him, so instead he goes to the lookout with Krillin, Yamcha, Tien, Chaozu, and a begrudging Yajirobe. And training together, they all grew a lot stronger. Well, aside from Yajirobe, who wasn't really giving it his all. Krillin was trying his best to keep up with Goten, so he trained even harder than in the original, and while he is stronger here, he just couldn't keep up with the kid. Chi-Chi had given Goten a schedule to stick to. He spent 3 days a week training, 2 days a week studying, and he'd have the weekends to do whatever he wanted. Which, for him, meant trying to visit Piccolo. The other fighters had warned him to stay away from Piccolo, but he wasn't that afraid of him, even after seeing what he did to his dad. As far as he was concerned, Piccolo only did that to stop Raditz. He didn't really want to. Goku had once told Goten about the original King Piccolo, and that in spite of what Piccolo Jr. might claim, he's not nearly as bad as his father was. Pretty much as soon as he'd learned how to sense energy, he'd track Piccolo down every now and then. Piccolo was hostile at first, but not violent. He wasn't interested in talking with Goten, but he didn't wish the kid any harm. He couldn't for the life of him figure out why this kid was so insistent on spending time with him, so eventually he just asked him, "Listen kid, don't you realize I killed your father? I'm not exactly the kind of guy you should hang around." "You only did that to stop Raditz." "True, I'd have preferred to fight him properly." "See? What kind of evil demon king cares about a fair fight? Your dad didn't. My dad told me he took Tien hostage when he realized he was losing." "That's because— and you're working so hard to save this planet. You don't seem that bad to me." "I'm only saving this planet so I can conquer it later." It was clear that Goten didn't really believe him, and this wasn't the last time they'd talk, as Goten would continue to track Piccolo down asking to spar, and eventually Piccolo caved and agreed. While Piccolo could beat Goten, he was surprised how much stronger this kid had gotten training on the lookout. Maybe it would have been worth training him. This became an almost weekly occurrence. No matter where Piccolo attempted to hide, Goten would find him, they'd spar, and when Piccolo was in the mood to talk, they'd chat. Piccolo doesn't grow nearly as close to Goten as he did to Gohan, but he does like the kid, basically considering him a friend. 9 months passed by, and Goten visiting Piccolo was unknown to everyone except, of course, Kami. And one day after a training session, Kami decided to pull the kid aside and talk about it. "What made you decide to visit my other half?" Kami's tone made it clear this was merely a question, not a reprimand. He didn't have an issue with it. "Well, he's the strongest person on the planet, so I thought it might be good to train with him." "Well, I'm a little surprised he agreed to that." "I kinda bugged him until he did. He's not so bad." Kami seemed bemused by this. King Piccolo would probably have tried to kill Goten for that, so perhaps Goku was right about Junior not being as bad as his father. If that were the case, then perhaps they could count on Piccolo Jr. for assistance in the future. "Well, you certainly seem to be having a positive influence on him. Run along now." Later that day, when everyone had left, Kami would attempt to communicate with Piccolo telepathically. Get out of my head, old man. I haven't said anything yet. I wanted to make you an offer. Goten seems to enjoy your company, and I know you've been sparring with him semi-frequently. He didn't exactly give me much choice. I wanted to know if you would like to take over his training for the last 3 months before the Saiyans arrive. I believe he has made all the significant progress he can with me. You'd trust me with that? I could easily warp this child into my own weapon for world domination. Kami just laughed at him. Somehow I doubt you would. Piccolo didn't respond to that. He would sigh out loud before taking a moment to consider this offer. Alright, but I train in my way, and I don't want you butting in. So long as he isn't seriously injured, I won't get involved. Learning from Piccolo was a completely different experience to learning from Kami. Kami would take the time to fully explain what he was trying to teach you, while Piccolo would explain it once and then expect you to get it. It took Goten some adjustment, but eventually he managed to adapt to Piccolo's style of doing things, and by the time the 3 months were up, he'd grown considerably stronger than even Piccolo had expected. Piccolo has a power level here about 3,800. Goten is around 3,000, while Krillin, who trained harder to try and keep up with Goten, is at 2,500. Soon, Nappa and Vegeta would arrive, and Piccolo, Goten, Krillin, Yamcha, Tien, and Chaozu would go to intercept them. Of course, Nappa begins by planting the Cybermen. Vegeta was sure this was a waste of time since this 5-year-old had a power of 3,000, but this gave him an idea. He'd test this kid. Nappa! Command the Cybermen to attack that boy! The other fighters seemed worried by this, but Goten seemed pretty confident. For that matter, so did Piccolo. You've got this, kid, and that's where I'm gonna stop. Will Goten's presence cause any significant difference against Vegeta and Nappa? Does Piccolo even care about Goten enough to save him from Nappa? How will they beat Vegeta since Goten doesn't have a tail? Well, you'll have to find out next time. What do you think about this idea? Obviously we all love Gohan and Trunks, but do you think this story about their younger siblings could be interesting? If you have any feedback, leave a comment, I always enjoy reading them. And if you like this kind of content, remember to subscribe for more. Alright, bye!